Welcome to the channel, everybody. Glad you can make it. I'm going to talk about the Fuji GF 23mm f4 lens. This lens was made for the GFX system from Fuji. It's an ultra wide angle, and I did some reviews and some unboxings for the GFX system about 5 years ago and never did one for the 23mm. After using this lens for 5 years, is it still worth it? Stick around to find out. Let's start with, this is an ultra wide angle lens. This, when it first came out, was the only native ultra wide angle lens for the GFX system, and it is the equivalent on full frame of 18 millimeters. So this is super wide, and even today there's only one native lens, and that's the Venus 17 millimeter. It's made by a different company, but it has the GF mount. So this is a really niche lens that has, very little competition in the space. There are also vintage lenses that you can use, but I've tried a few of them out, and so far all of the ones that I have tried out, none of them have compared to the Fuji GF 23mm. Next, let's talk about image quality. Let's just start off with the image quality on this lens is on par with all of the other GFX, GF Fuji lenses that I've tried. They're all just amazing, and the 23mm f4 is the same. The sharpness of this lens is great. It produces so little distortion for an ultra wide angle lens that is a huge plus. It saves me a lot of time in editing and really takes images to a whole nother level. And the chromatic aberration is really low on this lens, and the corners are sharp. The image quality is just amazing with this lens. Notice the sunset here with the palm trees. These were in almost complete shadow when I took this image, and even after lifting them, there's all kinds of detail in them. And so this is really useful when you start talking about landscape photography and getting out of the studio, where it's really tough because you've got really hard shadows and really high highlights. This lens really does handle that very, very well. All right, what to use this lens for? Given that this is an ultra wide angle lens, this lens is great for landscapes, seascapes. It's even great for architecture shots and night photography. I've used it for all kinds of different things. I've even used it at a wedding. So there are a lot of uses for this lens, and it does a great job. Notice the night photography shots here. Notice the cityscape and the Milky Way. Both of these have really high quality. They have very low noise, very little distortion. This lens takes great images and can be used for so many different things. Next, let's talk about some things that could be better with the Fuji 23mm lens. f4 is not slow for the medium format space, but it's also not fast. This lens also doesn't have image stabilization, which is something that a lot of modern lenses has if it's not built into the camera. It would be really great if this lens had at least was a little bit faster or had image stabilization, especially for the price. Speaking of price, is the Fuji 23mm f4 lens worth the $2,600 price tag? Well, if you're shopping in the medium format world, you know that it's not inexpensive. Everything seems to be just a little bit more expensive when you step up to medium format. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I'm not going to go into that here, but just understand things are more expensive. So is this worth it? I've had this lens for 5 years. I've used it on a ton of things. And for me, I think it's worth it. Now, if you're the photographer that shoots portraits in a studio, you're probably not going to be in the market for the ultra wide angle 23 millimeter. It's probably not going to get pulled out of your bag very often. And at $2,600, I'm guessing there's a lot of other gear or things that you could probably better spend your money on. But again, it just depends on what you're shooting. This lens is super capable. It's super amazing for landscapes. It's great for night photography. I've really created some amazing images with it. And so for the $2,600 price tag, I think the build quality is there. I think that I use it enough that, and I've had it for 5 years, and I could see myself using it for at least another 5 or 10 years. This lens just keeps producing. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you got what you needed from this, and I really like the Fuji 23 millimeter f4 lens, and tell me in the comments below what your experience is with it, or if you're just going to order it, or if you have any questions that I didn't answer here. If you like the content, please hit the thumbs up button below. And if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button. And until I see you again, enjoy your photography journey.